morning, good morning, good morning. So this morning is Father's Day as well as celebrating our service. And I just want all of those that are fathers or non-fathers, and especially the women that had to do both roles of mother and father, I honor each and every one of you and thank you for raising kids. I never had that opportunity in my life, but I understand some of it sometimes being a stepmom. So I want to talk to you about this morning about when your house turns upside down. Basically when things go a little bit not the way we planned. And it's interesting for me because I was trying to think, back, when was the first time in my life that I actually experienced my life going totally just out of control? And that happened on June 7th, 2008, when my dad passed away from lung cancer. It was very quick. He was diagnosed on Monday and he decided to leave us on Saturday. Yeah. And he knew about Science of Mind and all that. So my family and I, I've been in agreement that we figured he watched what my mom went through and he said, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this stuff. So he left. And when he decided to leave, it absolutely just threw my mother and my two brothers into a trajectory that we are still in. It's amazing when someone leaves how everything changes. Our lives change overnight. It's like, how do we navigate things? How do we do things now that this person is no longer here? And I was thinking about this whole Wizard of Oz theory, and I thought, actually what I'm doing this summer is kind of giving you a metaphysical look at what L. Frank Baum was really writing. What was fun is that when he was looking for a name for Oz, he was in his office and he's looking around and he sees his file cabinets and he goes, oh, O through Z, Oz. A true story. So that's how Oz came about. And Dorothy and Toto, of course, were all characters that he created. And what we understand about Dorothy's experience in his beautiful story is that here's this young girl who goes into her house. Oh, and I wanted to let you all know, those dream things that you have? How many of us have had dreams where we feel like we're in a house or in a room or something? The house represents you. Just so you know. So houses and rooms, what is that book, My Father Has Many Mansions? It's all about us. Each one of us is a room. So when we dream, supposedly, that house is us. And each room that we visit is something that's going on in our life. So just know that if you are in a house in your dream, it's all about you. So when we look at that house that Dorothy's in, she is in sort of a dream state where everything is whirling and swirling around her. And again, she's seeing things go by her window and her life pass by. And then all of a sudden, everything kind of calms down and the house, boom, settles down. And she's kind of like, okay, Toto, I guess we're not in Kansas anymore. And she walks to the front door and she opens it. And the beauty of the whole thing is here we've been experiencing it in black and white, and now it's Technicolor, which was huge back then. So here we are. We are open to a whole new world. And that's what happens when we decide to open up, when we decide to go from a black and white existence to where we open the door to new possibilities, to new colors in the world, like new experiences. The Sufi poet Rumi said, what we are seeking is seeking us. So as we all are on this journey together, it is seeking us as well. Ernest Holmes wrote, as we gradually wake up to that what already exists in the mind of God. And because we wake up to it, it appears to us. So all of a sudden, when we decide to get out of our sleepiness, when we decide to get out of that fog, we open the door and it's like, whoa, okay, here's a new experience for me. I'm going to step into it. And like Dorothy, she did the same. She timidly walked out. And what she found was she had a whole new world to explore. But yet, what was her goal? To see the wizard. And that's what we have. Is we can look at the wizard as that source, that higher source of all that is. So what she was doing is she's on this spiritual journey of wanting to know more about this higher power. And so she decides to start on this road, as we do. One day we wake up and we say, you know what? I want more. I know more. There's something within me right here, right now, that is just wanting to know more about this connection that I've been told about. Supposedly this God guy or this guy girl or goddess, whatever it is we want to call it, it's this connection that we feel within ourselves and we say, what is it? So then we start exploring. And the whole time we're exploring this, it's saying, I love you. I know that whatever it is part of you. Along the way of this wonderful road that she takes, she meets several characters. One is called the Scarecrow, who has, supposedly, he's looking for a brain, when really he's looking for mind. He's the mind part of the equation. Then we have Tin Man, who's looking for a heart. So now you've got mind and heart. And then you've, of course, got the wonderful Cowardly Lion, who wants some courage. He wants courage. And of course, somebody's always pulling on his tail, which is him, because he's always dabbing his eyes. But what he's doing is he's constantly pulling on himself to know the truth of all that is. So what he's doing is he's saying, okay, I can do this. So now we've established that she's got her mind, she's got her heart, and she's definitely stepped into her truth. That's what she's doing. Then, of course, you have our wonderful little character of the Wicked Witch of the West. She represents negativity. That is the little witch, or the big witch, that keeps flying into our lives and cuts off all the good and throws us into negativity. It throws our mind and our heart and sometimes even our body into negative thinking. Because it's like, I'll get you, my pretty. That's what she's doing. She's constantly doing that. She's kind of like this little subconscious thing going, I'm going to throw every wrench I can into whatever positive thing you want. But yet, then we have Glenda the Good that comes down, and she creates a bridge to where Dorothy and Toto are protected. So they go along their little journey, and they keep exploring different things. And that's what happens with us. Life doesn't go in a straight line. I wish it would sometimes, but we go over hill, we go over dale, and we're met with challenges that sometimes we don't always know what to do about. And we can say, God, you didn't equip me for this. How am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to play this out? What am I supposed to do? Then, if we just get quiet and we just ask, what is mine to do? What is mine to know? And that will be done. The hard part about when things get turned upside down is that those are the transitions in our life. That's when whatever it is, that's going on says, okay, we need a shift here, scene change. We need a little bit more and a little bit less, and let's learn a little bit about ourselves. So what happens is we tend to want to keep all those things that we're trying to so desperately not transition from. But they're going to happen. Transitioning we experience in birth and in death, retirement, in marriage, graduations, all kinds of different events in our lives. Those are events that basically create a threshold of which we walk across and into a new life, into a new existence. Sometimes like changing jobs or moving or other things like that can make life a little bit different or difficult. And we often say, well, what do I do? I can remember a time in my life in a galaxy far, far away that it was right around, I know we all have these, COVID. And it was in March. And I was going through a time in my life where I was living in Hemet and I was driving into San Diego. And I was running a church. And my heart really wanted to be in the church. But I was so afraid because I was only making enough money to pay my rent and my bills. I was so afraid that if I let go of the job in San Diego, that I wouldn't be provided for. Can you believe a science of mind person believing that? A minister in training too. So that was fun. But anyway, so what happened is COVID shut my job down. Well, shut everybody's down, but I was in the cosmetology industry. So it shut that door, nailed it shut. And it was interesting because just before it was nailed shut, I was debating, as I said, well, maybe I should leave. I've been doing this for 35 years. Maybe it's time. Well, COVID made that decision. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And the next thing I know is all of a sudden the church comes to me and says, you know, you've been hanging out in this part-time thing. We want you full-time. Really? Okay. So what happened is, which was very much a gift, is I left that old life behind, and then I reestablished a new life in a whole different realm. And actually, it was what I really, really, really wanted to be, was a full-time minister. And that was such a gift, even though everyone else was in it. So what do we do when we are in stuff like this? Most of us feel like we're a survivor. Well, this week, I was looking at that word survivor, and it really bothered me because I thought survivor, to me, that word personally was, well, I get it. It's like, it's difficult, it's a challenge, there's so many things coming at you, and you just feel good to get on the other side of it. For me, I thought, you know what? I'm more than that word. I'm more than a survivor. I conquered. I conquered whatever it was that was going on with me. I said, no, I'm conquering this. I'm not surviving this. I'm conquering this. I own this. So I have decided that instead of using survivor, I'm using conquer. Because it empowers the person. It empowers me, and it empowers whoever else decides to use the word. And so I am, yes, a survivor, but I'm not. I'm a conqueror. I'm here, to live and breathe and live to tell another crazy story. But often when we get into that position of where we're conquering something, we tend to have these little things where we say, well, I don't know, is God really there with me? Yes. And how I can prove to you is that God is never separate from us. And the second is God plans we plan and God laughs. How much we want to do, and God just goes, well, that's a nice try. But I have something, much, 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 much better. So what happens is then we are pushed, then our life, because we're pushed, turns upside down. And we're thinking, what the heck? I'm in this dark hallway. Is there a light? And what we're doing is we're looking for that light switch. We're trying to find the light so that we can get out of what we're doing. And God's going, not quite yet. You need to really just sit and breathe. And so then eventually, after a while, which seems like an eternity, we find that light switch and we turn it on. And the light illuminates everything. And all of a sudden, that issue or that challenge that we have been facing goes, oh, that's not a big deal at all. I've got this. I've got this. And all the things that I've been experiencing will help me get over that little hump. I've so got this. But what happens is when we turn on that light, sometimes other things take our attention, like squirrel over here, squirrel. And we lose our focus. And then we get back to that little dark place again, and we're looking again for the light switch. When really, if we just stay our path, we stay along that journey, it'll all come together. But we have to trust. We have to trust. And the other thing is when we think that we're alone in that hallway looking for the light switch, we actually have helpers. How many of you really think you have a helper when you have a challenge? Most of you are probably thinking, no. Well, okay, yeah, there's a few. But what happens is we think we're alone in whatever's going on. We can't see past that. You know, when you look at Dorothy, she had the Munchkins. She had her little threesome of, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. And she even had Glenda the Good Witch and Toto, the dog. Yes, and Toto too. So we had Toto too. And he was actually the driver of the whole thing. Not too many people know that, but the dog, Toto, was the one that drove everything in the direction that everywhere was going. He was also the one that made things move, like with getting the broomstick and all the other things, and jumping out of the basket in the beginning to make her go on her journey. So we have these helpers. And what I want to call them, and it was interesting because we got this question Wednesday in our Wednesday Wisdom group. And the question was, why do people leave? And I really loved that question because it made me think. And I thought, yes, why do people leave? And I explained this on Wednesday, but I felt I wanted to share it with all of you on Sunday. And it concerns a time. People are in our life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. A season is that they may be in our lives for a short amount of time and then either move on or do whatever, but they're no longer there. Then we have a season where people are in our lives for just a little bit longer to see us maybe through some difficulties or whatever it is. And we get to where we need to be, and then all of a sudden they just kind of disappear. And then, of course, you have those people that are in your life for a lifetime. I had a girlfriend who I've known from preschool, and I have always been a part of her family. And I've been so blessed. And Jean and I we grew up in the Science Mine. She was in the San Jose church. I was, of course, in Los Angeles and different other places. She and I used to play together. And I mean, not just play like children. She'd play the piano, I'd play the guitar, we'd sing, and it was just fun. And then about 3 years ago, she died of colon cancer. So she's no longer here. But the family and I I'm like the fourth daughter. I've always been involved with this family, these beautiful people. And I think, isn't it interesting how we get those friendships where we just bond and we're in each other's lives forever. So it's been really wonderful to have them still in my people, even though she's gone on to a higher good, so to speak. So when we have these helpers, it's like by divine appointment. And I want to call it agape love. And if those of you that don't know what agape love is, it's a type of love that is often described as selfless, unconditional, and sacrificial. And it is often considered the highest form of love and is intended for everyone. The provider of agape love gives selflessly, expansively, and intentionally for the vitality of the receiver. The provider of agape love gives selflessly, expansively, and intentionally for the vitality of the receiver. So in Science of Mind, we recognize that we are all givers as we are receivers. Love is the core of all that is, and that we each have the invitation to love and to listen. So when we listen for God's voice, it comes through friends, it comes through words on the page, it comes through signs. So we're not specifically just looking for one thing. We're actually listening for God's voice, for God's whatever it is that shows up in our life. When we follow God's lead and we know the wisdom, we will be shown the way. And what we know is that God works through us as us in the Science of Mind. Isn't that our little mantra that we say? Okay, so it works through everybody like that. So if we are truly looking at that at Science of Mind, working through us as us, then we know that whatever we need to know is going to come through that person. We just need to recognize it and learn. So let's think of going back to Oz for just a minute. I'd like to invite you all to just think about one time in your life where everything went a little bit sideways. And now I want you to see yourself where you are now. And that experience that you had, though at the time it might have felt like the whole world was crashing in on you, and your house was landing on top of you, that actually it gave you the strength and the courage to be right where you are right now. Right now. That's what God does in our life. It operates in love, and it says, I know this is going to be a little rough, but I love you, and I'm showing you this so that you can be even better and you can be lifted up into the highest good. That is what God does for us. It's kind of like Glenda the Good Witch coming down in that bubble, and she follows Dorothy the entire time in her trip, and that's what God does with us. It continually watches us and knows wherever we are, we're going to be okay. Everything is just fine. So let ourselves allow ourselves to open up to new and wonderful possibilities, to new and wonderful experiences. We've got the tools to live that higher and wonderful good, because God is right where we are. So let us join together. Let's join together in that one mind that is God's mind, which is our mind, which is love. And in that love, this relationship, in this relatingship that we experience as agape love, I am just so grateful for all that is and all that will be, all that we are opening up to, all that is constantly being given, all that we are shown, we know that God is right where we are. And I am just so grateful for this moment that we share together as a spiritual family. And that as we move forward in our day and our week and our month, our year, that God is everywhere present. And that all we have to do is listen to that still small voice to know that beautiful agape love. And for this I am truly grateful. As together we say, and so it is. Amen.